Welcome back to the Eldritch Hearth, where this week, True Crime Tuesday is on a Wednesday. Today we're going back 100 years to the mysterious death of Virginia Rappe. Trigger warning for death, sexual assault, and a fatphobic insult. Roscoe Conkling Arbuckle was born in 1887 in Smith Center, Kansas, and shocked his parents by being a whopping 13 pounds at birth. He grew up to be a big boy, and so he acquired the nickname of Fatty. Fatty Arbuckle is most well known as a silent movie star. When Roscoe's mother died when he was 11 years old, his father kicked him out of the house, and so he began supporting himself. He signed up for an amateur talent show and won the prize. This threw him into vaudeville. Arbuckle loved entertaining people and moved from vaudeville into the silent movie screen. His first movie was Ben's Kid in 1905, and then he moved on to the Keystone Cops movies. He was well known because he discovered both Buster Keaton and Bob Hope and mentored Charlie Chaplin. One of Arbuckle's most famous co-stars was Mabel Norman, who a few months after this would be implicated in a different murder case. Although he was known as Fatty on screen, that was the character that he played in his movies. When someone addressed him as that off-screen, he replied, "I got a name, you know." He was very sensitive about his weight. However, he was an agile and acrobatic man, able to do a backward somersault without a thought. In the beginning of September 1921, Arbuckle was flying high. He had just signed a deal with Paramount Pictures to do 18 pictures over the next 3 years for the whopping sum of $3 million. That amounts to over $40 million in 2021. To celebrate becoming the highest paid actor of the day, his friends Lowell Sherman and Fred Fishbach took him to the St. Francis Hotel in San Francisco for a Labor Day celebration. They provided the room, the women, and the alcohol, even during Prohibition. When he woke up in his hotel suite on Labor Day, September 5th, the room was full of uninvited guests. He wandered through in his pajamas, robe, and slippers, and there he discovered Bambina Maud Delmont and Virginia Rappe. Virginia Rappe had been born in 1895 in Chicago. Her mother Mabel died when Virginia was only 11, which left her to take care of herself, much like Arbuckle. She had also made her way out to California, working as a model and sometimes fashion designer. A magazine article noted that she was the first woman to wear a tuxedo in public, demanding equal rights in clothing for women. She also designed the peace hat with dove wings on it to display her desire for peace over war. Rappe was an up-and-coming actress. She had appeared in bit parts in 13 movies and had met Arbuckle between 5 and 6 years ago. When Arbuckle saw Delmont and Rappe, he was a bit concerned that the party would be busted because Delmont had a reputation for being a procurer of women, an extortionist, and a blackmailer, and Rappe had somewhat unfairly acquired a reputation as a party girl. Neither had been invited to the party. There's little information to be found about Bambina Maud Delmont other than she was known as Madam X and had this reputation for attending parties where wealthy young men were present and then later blackmailing them with rape charges. Nobody really knows what happened that day, other than Virginia Rappe became very, very ill. Partygoers saw her writhing on a bed and crying in pain. The hotel doctor was called, and he assumed that she was just suffering from intoxication and gave her some morphine to deal with the pain. However, Rappe did not get better, and a few days later she was removed to the Wakefield Maternity Hospital, where she then died of peritonitis brought on by a ruptured bladder. Delmont, who had gone to the hospital with Rappe, told both the hospital and then police after Rappe's death that Arbuckle had raped Rappe, and that's what had caused her death. This is Delmont's story. She said that after they arrived at the party, Arbuckle took Rappe and saying, "I've been waiting for you for 5 years and now I finally have you," brought her into his room and locked the door. Half an hour later, Delmont heard Rappe crying from behind the door. She kicked it, trying to get in, and finally Arbuckle opened the door wearing his robe, Rappe's hat rakishly on his head, smiled foolishly, and stepped aside. Delmont saw Rappe lying on the bed, moaning in pain. She said that Arbuckle threatened to throw Rappe out the window if she didn't stop her crying and making noise. Then all the partygoers left, leaving her alone with the suffering Rappe. When the police heard this information, they assumed that Arbuckle, because of his heavy weight, had crushed Rappe during an act of sexual assault, and that's what ruptured her bladder. I'd like to point out that Roscoe Arbuckle, known as Fatty, weighed somewhere between 260 and 300 pounds. The police believed her claims and pressed charges. William Randolph Hearst's papers ran with this. They accused Arbuckle of all kinds of sexual perversions, and Rappe didn't get off any easier in their papers. They said that she was a loose woman, that she had STDs. The papers attacked both Arbuckle and Rappe with the same venom. And Hearst would later say that this case sold him more papers than the sinking of the Lusitania. San Francisco District Attorney Matthew Brady saw this case as his way into the governorship, and he ran with it. Originally, Brady wanted to charge Arbuckle with first-degree murder, but later was forced to reduce the charge to manslaughter. Arbuckle turned himself in and spent 2 weeks in jail before he was released on his own recognizance. During the first trial, he testified and gave a very different story than the one that Delmont had said. Arbuckle said that after a few drinks, Rappe had become hysterical and crying and began tearing off her clothes, saying that she was in pain. He said that he had gone into his bedroom to change clothes to take a friend into town, and when he was in there, he found Rappe vomiting in his toilet. He picked her up and placed her on the bed, then went back out and asked other partygoers to help him revive her. When they all walked back into the room, they found her on the floor, tearing at her clothes and convulsing, at which point the hotel doctor was called. Delmont did not testify because she could not get her own story straight. At one point, she claimed to be a lifelong friend of Rappe. At another point, she said that she had only known her for a few days. She had also sent telegrams to 2 attorneys saying, "We have Roscoe Arbuckle in a hole here, chance to make some money." Brady knew that he could not put her on the stand, and so several other hotel guests and workers from the hotel testified at the trial. However, during cross-examination, it came out that these witnesses had been threatened by Brady that they would be charged with perjury or other crimes if they refused to testify the way he wanted them to. And the doctor who treated Rappe said that Rappe had told him that Arbuckle did not try to assault her. However, the prosecutor dismissed this as hearsay. The defense had information that could be damaging to Rappe. However, Arbuckle refused to allow them to use it because he didn't want to disrespect the dead. Arbuckle's wife, Minta Durfee, another silent movie star, even though they were estranged at the time of the trial, still believed in him, and she believed that he was not guilty of this crime, and she attended the trial every day. This support made someone so angry that she was actually shot at. The trial ended in a mistrial with the jury deadlocked 10-2 for an acquittal. The prosecution charged him again, and that trial also ended in a mistrial. By the time the third trial came around, Arbuckle was broke. He had been forced to sell his home and all of his vehicles and had spent over $700,000 on his own defense. And at that point, he allowed his defense attorneys to bring in all the dirt that they had on Virginia Rappe. Some of it was pretty awful. But the one that seems most relevant was that she was known to struggle with frequent urinary tract infections, and these were aggravated by the drinking of alcohol. She was known in the Hollywood community to attend parties, drink too much alcohol, and then when her infections began bothering her, stripping off her clothes in pain. At this third trial, the jury acquitted him in 5 minutes. 4 of those minutes were spent writing him a statement, saying that this trial had been a gross injustice and apologizing him for having to go through it. Each member of the jury shook his hand or embraced him, and they all posed with him afterwards for a picture. This case brought all kinds of negative attention to Hollywood, and so the motion picture industry had hired Will Hays to come in and censor films and to protect them from further damage. A week after Arbuckle's acquittal, Hays banned him from the movie industry. 8 months later, Hays would reverse this decision, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. So, Rappe was dead, Arbuckle's career was in tatters, and Delmont was touring the country as the woman who had signed the murder warrant against Fatty Arbuckle. She also lectured on the evils of Hollywood. He legally changed his name to William B. Goodrich, or Will Be Good for short. Working as Goodrich, he directed movies for those who had remained loyal to him. Louise Brooks, who was up and coming in her career, worked on one of the films that Arbuckle as Goodrich directed, and she said he had been very nice and sweetly dead ever since that scandal that ruined his career. In 1932, Warner Brothers signed him as Fatty Arbuckle to do 6 short films, and as they were released in the United States, they were very successful. On July 28, 1933, Arbuckle signed a contract with Warner Brothers to do a feature film, and afterwards went out to celebrate that with his friends, along with his first anniversary with his new wife. At the party, he said, "This is the best day of my life." The next morning, he died in his sleep of a heart attack at the age of 46. Arbuckle was such an important figure in comedic movies that John Belushi, John Candy, and Chris Farley had all expressed interest in playing him in a biographical movie. Chris Farley had actually signed the papers to begin filming this movie shortly before he died. The St. Francis Hotel in San Francisco is now the Westin St. Francis, and you can ask to see the room on the 12th floor where the party that infamous Labor Day weekend went down, and if the room is unoccupied, they'll be glad to show it to you. That ends this episode of Eldritch Hearth. On Friday, I'm going to be talking about the TV movies that scared me from the 70s and 80s. Penelope the Octopus, and I hope you do attend.